So Egolf mentioned a 9-0 stay yesterday. He is 2-3 today. But so far, that 9-0 start means he's got one last shot at the top 8. It's going to go through Dylan Hand. A couple months ago, Humans and Hollow One were really just the talk of Modern. And this matchup, I think, perceived by a lot of players to be pretty close.
Yes, winning the die roll definitely going to be in Dylan Hand's favor, no doubt about that. Hollow One tends to gain its percentage points in the matchup by having really explosive starts. Things like the turn 1 Hollow One are a really big deal, whereas the Human stack just kind of generates pretty good power over time. If the Hollow One clock is a little bit slower, Reflector Mage starts to become a big problem for them.
Sure. So what happened, no explosive turn 1 for Michael. He actually led on Blackleaf Cliffs so that he could Lightning Bolt. Dylan went for a turn 1 Champion of the Parish, turn 2 Kite Sail Freebooter. Michael bolted it with the trigger on the stack. So nothing big going to happen there.
Yeah, you still get to see the hand, but this trigger is just resolved. There's no cards being held.
And what do you think about this one? He has a second land, Faithless Looting, Gurmag Angler, Tassiger, Collective Brutality, and Hollow One.
This is an interesting hand because if he wants to, he can just Faithless Looting into turn 2 Hollow One. He's probably priced into using the Brutality, just hitting the Champion of the Parish, though. Down the line, though, depending what he draws, he's set up to put in a situation where on the following turn, cast some discard spell, maybe keep the Hollow One, maybe also cast a Delve Threat on the next turn.
Cast the Brutality, no escalation. Just going to remove the champ to keep the board clear.
Yeah, the 2 life is whatever. His cards are good in his hand. He has Delve Threats, he doesn't have Bloodghast, and you're not going to find an instant or sorcery in Dylan Hand's hand.
Dylan, Kite Sail Freebooter, finds his choice of Burning Inquiry and Faithless Looting.
A little bummed to see the Inquiry being picked up. The idea of the Freebooter is you grab the Faithless Looting and suddenly Egolf's hand's pretty non-functional. Yeah. This way, you probably still just take the Faithless Looting and hope that the Burning Inquiry just leaves Egolf with garbage.
You take the Burning Inquiry, you could take the Faithless Looting and hope that Egolf's hand's non-functional?
Right. Yeah.
But he's actually not going to go that way. He's going to take the Burning Inquiry.
I suppose it leads to more potential upside if Dylan just likes his hand.
Actually, I'll pause here. Looks like... No, he took the looting. My apologies.
Okay.
So it is the Burning Inquiry, and yeah, he's hoping that... We'll see if Michael's hand is functional now. There was a Hollow One when we started. Now we'll see what happens.
Right. You hope that the Hollow One certainly is discarded. You'd love to see the Delve Threats go with it. At least one of them you want to see go. The combination of the Delve Threats and or the Hollow One. We got some die rollers here. I like when they just point at cards. That's the resolution I like.
All right, 3 in the yard. Oh, now there's 7 here. Now we have to
get a D7.
D8, reroll, and oh man. Just
on 8, you discard all of them. Is that the rule?
I'm good. We switched over to the 6-sider for this. I'm
right.
in. We're at least being efficient about it.
Ooh, no rerolls. That's lucky.
All right. Vial, Reflector Mage, and Land discarded, and the Hollow One left for Michael.
Was another one picked up? Looks like no.
No, he lost. That was a horrible Burning Inquiry.
And he kept both Delve Threats. He can only delve away for one of them.
So he lost his land, a Faithless Looting.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
Yeah, I guess he can make a Delve Threat.
Right.
Fortunately for him, Dylan lost the Reflector Mage. If Dylan had kept the Reflector Mage and you're just like Angler and he says bounce it, then... Ugh.
I'm sure that Dylan is happy to be discarding that Ether Vial. Looks like a land in the mix. I think it's Horizon Canopy. That one's kind of whatever. Losing the Reflector Mage is a big deal, though.
Yeah. And it's going to be a Gurmag Angler here for Egolf. He's going to have to delve 5 to it. And that means he gets to keep a Faithless Looting and a Lightning Bolt in the graveyard.
Yeah, the Lightning Bolt, basically just a card, but Faithless Looting does flash back.
Swinging for Dylan. Does he have another Reflector Mage? Ooh, oh, he does.
That is good.
And this is rough. No, saving grace here for Michael. He is still at 16. Dylan has had a ton of disruption, but not many threats.
Yeah, Freebooter doesn't hit too hard. That Brutality on the Champion of Parish was a pretty big deal. Slowed Dylan down a lot.
Well, Dylan's got an interesting one. He picked up Flameblade Adept, and he's actually going to go ahead and make Flameblade Adept. His hand is 2 Delve Threats and a Goblin Lore. And rather than try to make a Delve Threat this turn, he chose a different line.
I like the setup here. You both save the Goblin Lore to attack for more with the Flameblade Adept on the following turn. Also, if you lead on Goblin Lore and you discard the Tasigur, you just can't cast the Gurmag Angler. It's been Reflector Maged on this turn.
We see Meddling Mage from Dylan. It's going to name Lightning Bolt, and then we see Thalia's Lieutenant. I was interested in if Dylan was going to name Gurmag Angler there.
Right, yeah, you name the card that you know about it. He's also seen that Tasigur, but I think given that he has a card under Kitesail Freebooter, that he has a pretty respectable battlefield as it is, and a flying attacker, enough stuff on the ground to make the Delve threats not attack for very much, naming Lightning Bolt does make a lot of sense here.
5 points in, Michael drops to 11. He is going to make Goblin Lore. That'll pump the Flameblade Adept up to a 4-2. Michael's pretty far behind, though, in this damage race.
Yeah, the Adept likely not being blocked this turn, but you're right. He has the full 20 that he has to work through here.
We'll figure out the random ones here. Oh, there's your reroll.
It was bound to happen.
Yeah. Does discard a Flamewake Phoenix, and now because the Adept is a 4-2, he can bring that back.
Yeah, that's well and good. It's probably not as good on this turn as casting a Delve threat.
Yeah, looks like Michael's going to come to the same conclusion as well. Counts the graveyard. Looks like he has...
Like he has 4 free ones, and then he has the Phoenix and the Looting. The Looting you probably don't care about. The Phoenix you do.
Right, so instead of Angler, he's going to go for Tasigur so that he can keep the Phoenix.
Yep. Yeah, I like this play.
And no attack.
No attack is curious, because I would not expect Dylan to make that double block there with the Meddling Mage and the Thalia's Lieutenant. And even if he did, you just get to hit both creatures, right? You have 4 power to their 4 toughness.
Oh, Kessig Malcontents from Dylan. That's going to be 6 points off the bat to drop Michael to 5. I'm not sure that Michael survives the attack anymore.
Yeah, the Freebooter just closes it over the course of a couple turns, and he also just has some really nice attackers on the ground.
Freebooter's 2 in the air, and then he has three creatures on the ground, all with 3 power. So 1 gets through, that makes 5. Dylan Hand takes game 1.
Yeah, that is a lot of damage. And over time, Phantasmal Image just becomes a really good draw. That wasn't going to go better over time either.
And we are on to the sideboards here. So let's start first on Hollow One side with Michael Egolf. A lot of that game did feel like, when I look at a Hollow One deck, you can kind of, the texture of the first 2 turns can be really different. They can have these great starts and then these weak starts. Michael did have a pretty weak start there and felt like he fell too far behind. Now, post-board, I think he can do to... Does he become more reactive? Is he just kind of hoping to get a better draw? Or what can he do to change?
Yeah, he's going to have some options to become more reactive, and that's going to help him a lot. I don't think he generally, in game 1s in the matchup, wins the games where he has a slower draw. Okay. So he has some tools to make his slower draws better. In the sideboard, so the full list is 3 Ancient Grudge, 3 Leyline of the Void, 2 Blood Moon, 2 Grim Lavamancer, a Big Game Hunter, a Collective Brutality, 8 Engineered Explosives, a Fatal Push, and a Slag Storm. Basically all the stuff that efficiently deals with the creature, the Fatal Push, the 2 Grim Lavamancers, the Big Game Hunter, the Engineered Explosives, those all play in the matchup in a big way. You can enter situations. You saw the Collective Brutality be fine in game 1. And that card is totally reasonable. And Slag Storm can actually be really effective against humans if you can find a good window for it.
Yeah. Big Game Hunter is an interesting one because a creature has to have power 4 or greater for it to be a target. We're specifically looking then at Champions of the Parish.
Champion of the Parish and Thalia's Lieutenant, or something pumped by Thalia's Lieutenant, a 4-power Mantis Rider, for example. Okay.
On Michael's side... So yeah, we do have these sweepers. Engineering Explosives, he can go up to 2. I don't think he doesn't have any sources for a 3rd color, but then again, 2 is pretty good in this matchup.
Right, yeah, 1s and 2s is most of what you're looking at.
So on Dylan's side, he has Sin Collectors, Damping Sphere, Dismember, Gaddock Teague, Izzet Staticaster, Reclamation Sage, Hostage Taker, and Whirler Rogue. There's not too much I actually like here.
Yeah, I like the Dismembers a good amount. There's Hollow Ones, the Delve threats you can clean up pretty effectively there. Sin Collector is fine. There's a good mix of instants and sorceries. It's not that great, though. You can make an argument for Reclamation Sage just because of Hollow One. I think it's a little bit on the weak side, though. Hostage Taker I like a good amount, actually.
So a question then about the Dismember play. Say Michael, in games when Michael's in the play, when he starts on Flameblade Adept, Is Michael able to just win that kind of race, or do you feel like Humans still ends up ahead?
Well, Michael can certainly win those kinds of races. I mean, you need more than just a Flameblade Adept, but if you get multiple copies, add a Delve Threat to the mix, those early hits, they add up. And honestly, there's games where your Human's hand is set up in a way where you would even dismember the turn 1 Adept.
Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of trying to ask, is whether, like, what level, Michael obviously needs a good start. I'm kind of thinking, like, what level of good start does he need to take that aggro role? You know, just Adepts, or does he need, or are we looking at hollow ones?
It's super contextual by game, right? Where, you know, if your opponent is mounting a really good-looking attack on the crackback and you have a disruptive element, you probably should just go that way because you'll be able to deploy your threats on a future turn anyway.
Sure.
And Humans is a deck where most of their creatures get better over time because Athalia's Lieutenant, if the creature is just literally Champion of the Parish, you want to stem the bleeding pretty aggressively there. I guess proactively is a better word.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've seen that in a lot of these decks where they can answer Champion when it's small, but then when it starts hitting this critical point of 4/4, 5/5, then they start getting out of range of anything. I do like that Michael has a big game Hunter to still deal with them in that situation.
Yep. The trick is to not accidentally randomly discard it on early turns of the game and make sure you have it available when a large creature does come up.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can control that with Faithless Looting. A lot of his discard you can't control that with.
Right.
And Egolf, a quick mulligan here on game 2.
Looks like a pretty quick keep for Dylan Hand. Hollow One's a deck that on 6 and even 5 can still have its most explosive draws. It doesn't take too many cards. It does take a good amount of luck to have that turn 1 Burning Inquiry and pair of Hollow Ones.
Interesting. Hollow One, a deck that's gotten a lot of hype or a lot of results recently. This has not been a great tournament for the deck. Though Michael went 9-0 day 1 playing it, he was the only Hollow One player in the field. We had one player playing Vengevine. We had one Dredge player. We had one Living End player. So we've had some graveyard decks, but they're all over the place.
I think that a lot of what we're seeing is when we've been looking at sideboards, we've seen quite a lot of surgical extractions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of just catch-all removal available right now. People are pretty ready for Delve Threats. People are pretty ready for graveyards. And that's actually part of what has caused us to see Burn be the most represented deck on day 2. All this stuff that's graveyard hate, Burn doesn't care, and it's taking up the slots that could be stuff that gains life.
And that's really good. I mean, if you look at these Azorius control decks, right there, they're packing 3 Surgicals on the board. They're playing multiple Settle the Wreckages, playing Detention Spheres. I mean, at this point, it's hard to graveyard them out.
Right.
Michael, on 6, keeps starting with Flameblade Adept. Kind of asked earlier whether or not this might be a fast enough start. And we will see. Aether Vial on Dylan's side.
Yeah, he cycled a Street Wraith to draw the Adept that he knew was on top. He had the Burning Inquiry. This makes a lot of sense. Just trying to set up this aggressive draw.
Yeah, let's see. Well, it's going to pump, and we'll see if Michael can maybe add a Hollow One to the mix. There was not one there when he started. We'll see if there's one there when he ends.
Yeah, the roll approximately, give or take 7 dice here. Then we'll have an answer for you.
Oh, no, Dylan has 9 cards. We got to get a new die out of the bag.
Oh, that's so many.
All right, 3 on Dylan's side. I feel like you can tell when someone has learned to play with or against Hollow One on Moto because he sets the cards over to the side face down, which is like a very Moto way of doing it.
I mean, on Moto, it's just it's instant. All in the graveyard. You see it all right away.
Yeah, yeah. With Moto, right, you click it, and then you tap the Burning Inquiry, and then suddenly a whole bunch of things have changed. You have to figure out what happened.
You tap your land for red mana, you cast your spell, and then your hand is suddenly terrible. That's
it's just like everything's different.
When I want to say I spotted a Blood Moon in Egolf's hand. That card's actually pretty effective. Or is that Lightning Bolt?
It's Lightning Bolt.
Okay.
I don't think he has Blood Moon. Oh, no, he does.
There are 2 Blood Moons in the sideboard. That turns off most of the lands in the Humans deck. It's quite a bit worse when they have Aether Vial online.
So a big swing here. It's a swing for 6 from Flameblade Adept. Dylan to 14. He discarded 2 Flamewake Phoenixes. The question I'm going to have is, can Michael get that Adept up to 4 power.
Yeah, he has a backup Adept, Lightning Bolt, and he picked up a Swamp, so not just yet.
Right. If he plays that third land, he can flashback Faithless Looting, which is almost enough, but then he wouldn't even have the mana.
Yeah, if you flashback Faithless Looting into finding Street Wraith, you can do that. You give up some resources.
Yeah.
It's not pretty.
And Dylan, some stumbles on his own, misses his third land drop, plays Noble Hierarch, but he does have an Aether Vial on 2.
Ooh, there's Street Wraith. So we can see some. You won't be able to rebuy the Flamewake Phoenixes, which is a bummer, but
yeah, maybe at this point they're just pump spells.
Yeah, it's extra damage, that's for sure.
He has Grim Lavamancer, Swamp, and a Lightning Bolt in hand. Right now, he's just going to swing for 4 with Menace.
I will say that Grim Lavamancer is one of a small number of draws that would persuade me not to flashback Faithless Looting on this turn. Setting that up is a pretty big deal.
I really like what he has done here. Instead of flashing back Faithless Looting, he waited for Thalia's Lieutenant so that a double block wouldn't be possible. Or better yet, Dylan goes to the double block after Thalia's Lieutenant. Egolf will bolt the Hierarch, and then the Adept is going to eat the Lieutenant. Dylan's going to lose both creatures.
Yeah, that's pretty devastating. We'll find out exactly what hand has for leftovers, but right now he's pretty behind on board. He's losing his 1/1 for no reason.
He's got a Dismember, and now he's deciding if he wants to save it.
It's probably worth it.
Yeah, you don't like it, but he decides it is. He goes to 9, dismembers down the Adept.
I mean, Dismember is the kind of card that just tends to get worse over time. If you just take hits, then casting Dismember later gets so bad, and you have this opportunity to save your Thalia's Lieutenant, which is the only thing you have available to race back at the present moment.
So at the end of the attack, Dylan goes down to 7 from the Flameblade Adept. Michael follows up with Grim Lavamancer, so the clock is ticking on that damage, and now Dylan's going to try to come back. We see Thalia's Lieutenant and then a Viled-in Mantis Rider. He's, as quickly as he can, assembling a board.
Yeah, this is a lot.
Okay, let me see what did. So he's going to swing for 8 here. Stacked some triggers in a way to get some extra damage. And actually, Michael, I believe, down to 8 on the swing.
I think he picked up Lightning Bolt, but
yeah.
there is this issue. I suppose he has enough blockers, but a Phantasmal Image, another copy of Mantis Rider that just makes Dylan's board lethal here. So he has a setup where you can Lightning Bolt, activate Grim Lavamancer upstairs, but if you have to use the Lightning Bolt anywhere else, then you won't be able to close the game on the following turn with the Lavamancer.
Yeah, a correction here. Michael now at 6. We had missed a shock earlier. The life totals as they stand are now correct.
Sure.
Right, so if he bolts upstairs and can somehow Grim Lavamancer upstairs and then chump with the Adept, can he survive? As the board stands, I guess no. The answer to that is no. There's 6 damage facing him even on that line.
If nothing changes, he can currently block both of the ground creatures, take 4 off the rider, and then hope, activate Lavamancer upstairs, cast Lightning Bolt, and hope to draw either Collective Brutality or another Lightning Bolt.
Okay, so then he has to play off the top, though we can't count on the Lavamancer for the last point.
Right. And
okay.
I just don't really think he has anything that is better for him.
Well, this other Mantis Rider is going to have something to say about it.
Yeah, I think he's dead now.
It's not great.
Not this turn, but next turn. I mean, you can use that Lightning Bolt on the rider, but...
Yeah, Dylan's motions asks if triggers are okay.
Yeah. Going to make these creatures large, and Egolf has to both use Lightning Bolt on the Mantis Rider and block both the Champion of the Parish and the Thalia's Lieutenant. Meanwhile, the other Mantis Rider comes across for 4. Egolf chumps away his entire board, uses his only spell in hand, then doesn't have any card in his deck that just deals 7 damage or sweeps the board.
So he can't throw the bolt upstairs anymore.
Right. And he has that sideboard Slagstorm, but there's multiple 4 toughness creatures. That's out of range now. All right, so Lavamancer is going to go for Thalia's Lieutenant before it grows bigger. That's, better than blocking it, but he's still going to be shy on lethal on the following turn. Well,
here's Phantasmal Image for another Mantis Rider. And I think we're just
All right.
dead now.
Now it's just over this turn. There's nothing Egolf can do about
There's
this.
3 riders. He can bolt one of them, and the remaining 2 kill you.
Yep.
Egolf, and you can tell.
Yeah, and he couldn't have done anything with the Grim Lavamancer because if he let the Thalia's Lieutenant trigger resolve, then it's out of Lavamancer range. I guess you could have waited and blocked it and made a bad block and activated, but you're still not really drawing at anything.
And that's going to do it. Dylan Hand picks up the win, and with that, we believe he's going to pick up the spot in top 8 with